One of the greatest voices of all time. Dare I say the most talented artist in almost all of humanity. One of the most controversial nasal cavities of all time. And potentially one of the most concerning relationships with a small group of young men. Today on the History Out of the Box podcast, we are going to talk about one of the greatest artists, one of the most beloved musicians, one of the most interesting individuals I have ever known of, ever. Frankly, been a big part of my life. Michael Jackson.
Michael J. Jackson.
Michael John Jackson.
Michael Joseph John.
Michael
Jackson.
Joseph Jared Jackson. Michael Joseph Jared Jackson.
Michael Joseph Jackson.
Michael Joseph Jackson.
Yes, we are talking about Michael Jackson, the one and only.
And before we do that, let me go ahead and do the intro. I'm Cam. I am your friendly neighborhood scruffy-looking podcast host. And across from me is my beloved co-host, Jen. She is not as scruffy-looking as me. And together we're Jam. Jam, the podcast hosts. And we are History Out of the Box, one of the only podcasts, as far as I know, and as far as all historians know, to connect our listeners with the ghosts of their collective past. We like to talk about people who are controversial, people who are unfortunately no longer with us.
Yes.
But yeah, that is what we like to do.
I think that Michael Jackson is the most recent to pass away that we've done so far. So we will try to be as, what's the word I'm looking for? Gentle as possible, because we've gone far back. We've done Alexander the Great, Elizabeth Bathory. Mm-hmm. We've done some people who've been long gone. Rasputin.
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland was the most recent, I think. Well,
long gone.
Not that long gone.
Long gone.
Michael Jackson, he passed away not too long ago. I remember the day he passed away. So
I was called by a friend of mine who wept openly on the phone.
Oh, I didn't know this story.
Very strange. No offense to that person. I know they loved Michael dearly, totally fine. First time I ever experienced that, so it was awkward for me.
I remember I was, my brother, sister, and I were staying with family friends. My parents were on vacation at the time, and my mom called me very, very upset. And my brother, who is autistic, and he's an adult, but he absolutely adores Michael Jackson. He danced at our wedding as instead of giving a speech as best man like your brother did, he instead did a dance for us to Michael Jackson's Beat It, I believe, or Billie Jean, excuse me.
Yeah.
So big fans of Michael Jackson's music for sure. But we aren't just talking about his music today. We will be talking about his life and some of the good, bad, and the ugly. Because I'm sure most people who are watching or listening to this know that Michael Jackson was a very controversial figure, and there have been certain allegations made against him throughout his life, both when he was alive and post-human.
Post-human. When he was post-human. When he became post-human, there were allegations against him. He is now an alien.
No, posthumously was what I meant.
Posthumously.
Thank you. After his death, there were and still are several allegations against him, and some people, one person, we'll talk about them, does have a goal, according to their lawyers, to appeal a certain lawsuit that was filed a couple years ago. So anyway, we will get to all of that, but are you ready to talk about Michael?
I am. Yeah, I'm ready to. Yes, I'm ready to talk about Michael. I am going to do my best to keep all of my inappropriate jokes pushed deep down inside.
Good.
Kind of like all of my baggage. Just push deep down.
Yeah, just let it
deep
sit.
down.
Sit.
Just deep.
Just listen.
Emotional.
If something comes to your head, we'll talk about it. But yeah, we're going to start talking about the king of pop.
Ready? I couldn't find any 80s pop music, so we're going to have to go with this.
That's perfect. So, Michael Joseph Jackson, that was his full name. Young Michael was born on August 29th, 1958 in Gary, Indiana, as the 8th of eventually 10 children in his family, which...
10 kids?
10.
10 children?
Yeah.
How can... Wait a second. When was this? This was...
1958.
You could have 10 kids in 1958.
You can still have 10 kids today,
You know how much kids cost per child till they're 18?
Yeah.
No, you can't. You can't have 10 kids.
Expensive.
No.
But have you ever been to Gary, Indiana?
I have.
Not with me. I've been.
Oh, I haven't. Yeah, we went. Yes,
Actually visited his...
We went. I'm turning this down.
You went there.
Yeah, we
You
were.
went there.
Yes, it was. We went. I
Well,
was there in spirit.
Yeah, there is his childhood home is still standing in Gary,
Isn't it like
Indiana.
in a very suspect area?
It's not exactly in what we would call like a luxury neighborhood.
Of course.
But I've seen the house, tiny house. Yeah. 8 out of eventually 10 children. And that's, yes, like you said, expensive. A lot. There's also a lot of, I can't imagine having that many siblings.
Well, there's a good percentile that one of them might be famous.
Well, multiple.
Almost
all of them.
Okay, all of them were famous.
Yeah,
That's actually significantly incredible percentile of success.
His mother was Catherine Esther Jackson. She was a devout Jehovah's Witness. And she was also a clarinet player and a pianist who also worked part-time at Sears. And his father was Joseph Walter. He went by Joe Jackson. He was a crane operator at U.S. Steel, and he played guitar in a local band. So both musically inclined, as you can see. There was a destiny, some might say there. Michael's siblings were 3 sisters named Rebby, Latoya, and Janet. Yes, the Janet Jackson, the very famous Janet Jackson.
I became a man when I saw her and Justin Timberlake dance at the Super Bowl.
We're all sorts
We'll just leave it at that.
There's all sorts of... I have all sorts of commentary on that. We'll save for when the cameras are off. But anyway.
Who's at fault?
I have opinions.
But you do.
He also had 5 brothers named Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Randy. And the 6th brother was Marlon's twin named Brandon, who died very shortly after childbirth.
Uh-oh.
So there's all the kiddos of the Jackson family. A lot of work, I cannot imagine.
Food.
A lot of food.
Of mouths to feed.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, obviously, like I said, his parents were very musically inclined. And Joe Jackson, Michael's father, he performed in a band, or he didn't perform. He performed in a band, but he also formed a band called the Jackson Brothers with the brothers Jackie, Tito, and Jermaine. And they would often perform as background musicians. They were still very young. And in 1964, Michael, only at 6 years old, and his brother Marlon also joined the band.
Is that too young?
In my opinion, very much so.
Is that weird to have your child? We should ask.
Again, I have lots of opinions on
We should
this.
ask the YouTube parents. Is it weird? Is that too young? 6? Is that too young? Too young to make your children famous?
I think so. And Michael would later imply it was too. But there's a lot of... it's also different now than it was in the late 50s.
Is it different? Is it different?
I'm not saying it's necessarily better. There's certain things in place now that weren't in place then. Whether that makes it better or not, I don't know. But certainly... call it the Wild West. We did a whole episode on Judy Garland.
There's no rules.
Similar situation with Judy.
There were no rules. They could just literally, if a child had any semblance of talent, a giant stork that had dropped them off swooped back in, picked them up, and brought them to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Against the consent of their parents, or in some cases, by prodding of their parents.
I don't think it's much different now because I think that we're in the Wild West of this type of thing only on social media platforms.
Yeah, kids
so
just...
instead of being forced to open a Coogan account and all the union rules in the traditional entertainment industry, now we just have parents monetizing
their children
on
and they like
Reels
sell
and
like
TikTok,
advertisements to like Camel cigarettes or something.
That's a whole other tangent to go on. I'm not here to argue the merits here or there, but just a thought. But Marlon and Michael joined the band. Michael was 6 years old. Now, Michael would later say that his father was very physically, verbally, emotionally abusive when he was a child, and he started performing with the band. And he told Michael he had an ugly nose, where he's very young, which might play into a lot of the stuff we talk about later with Michael's nose. I know you brought up, it's true. Michael's nose was a source of lots of controversy throughout his entire life.
One?
Yes. He had a, quote, nose.
No.
He had a nose. But his father according to Michael, told him that he had an ugly nose when he was a child, that he would watch the brothers rehearse, and he would sit there with a belt in his hand while he watched, and he would use the belt as punishment when there were any mistakes made during rehearsal. And Joe, the father, would also admit later that he often whipped Michael. And Catherine, the mother, defended this action, saying that it was normal punishment at the time. And the brothers all said that Michael had it the worst because he was the youngest, but they didn't consider it abuse because it kept them in line when they were kids. At least that's what the brothers say. Michael obviously disagrees. He says it's traumatized him.
Of course it kept them in line.
Yeah.
They basically, they were in military punishment corporal mode with their parents at any point in time.
Well,
of course
he's the youngest with
line.
all of his older brothers, and he's getting apparently the majority of these like lashings from his father.
Because he was a child.
And yes, so Michael is very much alone as a child. It's quite sad, quite a sad story. Unfortunately, it's not a very uncommon one, but yeah, it's pretty tragic. His lack of a normal childhood is often correlated to his behaviors and his lifestyle later in life, which, again, controversial. But a lot of people utilize this as a reasoning for why he had these inappropriate relationships with young children.
That's the term we're going to use.
Later in his life.
Odd.
But shortly after joining the band, Michael began duetting with Jermaine for lead vocals and the Jackson brothers. They became the Jackson 5. So the Jackson 5, you've heard of, everyone loves their music, right? You hear them at grocery stores even today. And what happened was they won a talent show in 1965, and they began touring the Midwest shortly afterwards. And from 1966 through 68, they opened for Etta James, the O'Jays, Gladys Knight. They would perform everywhere, including, high school dances and also cocktail bars where, yes, strippers were present while these young boys in the Jackson 5 were performing.
The young boys would get beaten while they practiced if they messed up, and then they would go and perform at strip clubs, churches, and various institutions in order to... That sounds healthy.
It's one thing to be like, talented
the OJs were huge. I mean, good for them for opening for them.
Yes, that's big. It's pretty, pretty amazing.
All of them were big, but OJ's big
this
fan.
Amazing band of brothers who were also talented, but also at what cost? Truly, at what cost? At Michael's life, eventually, some argue.
Dare I say the sense of smell?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's more to it than just rhinoplasties, and we'll talk about that. But
you asked what cost. I answered. I have chronic silliness syndrome. It's a little toned down today, but I have it, and sometimes it comes out. Look, I love Michael Jackson. Do I think that he was a very suspicious Santa Claus on Christmas? I do think he was a very suspicious Santa Claus on Christmas. But I also think his music is phenomenal. And part of the reason why we do this show is we talk about people who were problematic, which is every person. Unless you're not problematic. Unless you're the only perfect person watching this, which, if that's the case, we want you on the show.
Welcome to the club. We, too, have never made mistakes.
Yes, we've never made any.
We've never done anything wrong.
What is a mistake? What is that?
I don't know. I'm perfect.
But I do think that is, I don't know. It's just an interesting... if he had not have gone the way he did, as we will talk about, I would wonder if he would have been... called by the cancel party today.
Well, he was, but we'll talk about that. We'll get there. You're jumping ahead too far, okay?
Sorry.
No, it's all right. Eventually, the Jackson 5 would earn a spot performing at the famous Apollo Theater in Harlem. Steeltown Records smelled the money, obviously, and they had them record with Motown eventually, and it was time for the Jackson family to pick up and relocate to grand old Los Angeles, California. Going from Gary, Indiana to Los Angeles, California had to be a culture shock.
Why can't we pick a different city? Why can't we move all the celebrities and all the production companies to somewhere not LA?
So the two other cities besides New York City.
Nashville?
No. Atlanta, Georgia, and Austin, Texas are where they film a lot of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
The music scene's big in Atlanta.
I'm sorry. I just get a cringe, a slimy feeling on my spine whenever I hear the city, Los Angeles.
We're
it brings
also
back
people
trauma.
who are from Southern California, and we have certain biases. Okay, so to all listening from Los Angeles, God bless you. Okay.
I don't need to say that. I apologize in episode 1. We've made this clear. I never apologize. I've already done it once. I don't need to apologize again.
All right. Well, Diana Ross would end up introducing the Jackson 5, and she was bringing many eyes to the young stars who just relocated to Los Angeles. And Michael was particularly well-loved, being, this young guy with pitch-perfect voice, musical gifts, beyond comprehension. And he was the image of a musical protege. Yes, thank you.
Protege is like...
Yes, yeah, I got them mixed up.
He was Diana Ross's protege, is what you're about to say.
He was a prodigy. A musical prodigy, which I think most people, regardless of what you think of him in his personal life, can agree that he was an incredible dancer, songwriter, entertainer, musician in general. So, enter the song you all know and love, I Want You Back.
That's so overrated.
By Jackson 5. That is...
It's the worst one.
Cam's hot take.
I don't.
It's his least favorite Jackson 5
My least
song.
favorite. Wasn't even a fan of the Jackson 5. I like Michael Jackson. Jackson 5. You did things. I'm happy for you.
You play it at every cookout.
You did a good thing. You know what? Daddy Daycare ruined it for me. My brother loved Daddy Daycare, and that movie, we watched it multiple times. That movie played that song was it open? It was in the opening scene, right? It had to have been. It was during that movie. I haven't
watched Daddy Daycare in 20 years.
Yeah, well, it ruined my interpretation and my perception of the Jackson 5. So,
well, that song, I Want You Back, was released in January of 1970, and this song skyrocketed the Jackson 5 to the number one spot in the Billboard Hot 100 for a full month, and it was soon joined by other famous Jackson 5 songs, ABC, I'll Be There, and The Love You Save. They were now big household names.
Yeah.
You don't like any of those songs, huh?
Overplayed.
Okay, all right. Well, they are, like I said, you hear them at grocery stores still today. Very famous songs.
Yeah, every kid's movie ever made that involves hilarity between adults and children it always plays those songs, always. And I just can't. Thanks, marketing. I just can't. I don't like those songs. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's to each their own.
Yeah.
It's fine. Michael's family was now living in a huge mansion in Encino, California, and that's part of Los Angeles.
When LA was nice, yeah.
It's a very nice part of Los Angeles. You go just go on Zillow and check out some of the houses today. They'll make you cry.
Yeah.
But Michael was becoming quite the teen idol. He actually released 4 solo albums with Motown from 1972 through 1975. But he remained with his brothers in the Jackson 5 as well. And in 1975, after complaining about the lack of input on their records, the Jackson 5 signed with Epic Records instead, and they renamed themselves the Jacksons. They toured internationally from 1976 through 1984, and Michael, being the main songwriter, is credited for writing famous songs like Shake Your Body Down to the Ground and Can You Feel It, which, do you not like those songs?
I don't remember those ones.
Shake Your Body Down to the Ground.
Oh, that one's okay.
And then Can You Feel It?
Yeah, that one's okay. I totally forgot that those are the Jacksons. Those ones are fine.
Yeah, okay, good.
Those ones are good. The early ones are just too it's too Elmo-y, Sesame Street-y for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Like I said, hot take.
We did an Elmo skit a little bit ago
Yes.
on a former episode. I don't remember. I don't rember who these people are.
You have to go back and listen.
Yeah, listen to all the episodes. We've been so inaccurate with our time schedules because we've been traveling. And if you don't notice, by the way, we are sharing our sister brand studio. So this is a tandem side project, but still is something we love to do.
Oh yeah.
With that being said, those 2 songs are fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad they
get a fine out of 10.
Okay, good. In 1977, Michael was starring and filming as the Scarecrow in The Wiz, an adaptation of Wizard of Oz. Have you watched The Wiz?
I have.
I have not.
It's strange.
Well, he co-starred with Diana Ross, Nipsey Russell, and that was in New York City, so he was there while it was filming. But unfortunately, maybe aligning with what your thoughts on the movies are,
strange.
It was a box office failure.
Strange.
Yeah, well... He would become a huge fan of the underground hip-hop scene while he was in New York City, though, and it heavily influenced him throughout his musical career. He actually would go to the Studio 54 nightclub there, and he would learn how to incorporate beatboxing into his music so that, in his future hits, you hear him doing that a lot. That's where he got it from, after living in NYC while filming The Wiz, which is interesting. Sometimes when Michael does it in songs, I don't think of it as beatboxing,
it's like scatting.
Yeah, it's like a mixture of the 2.
Oh,
yeah.
Like that's not what I would determine to be beatboxing, but that's what he he did, and it's okay. We love that.
Yeah. In 1978, Michael broke his nose during a dance routine. He did. And a failed rhinoplasty actually left his nose botched. And he had difficulties breathing that would affect him for the rest of his life with his nose. So
it's incredible that he had a botched nose job and could still sing the way he did.
He was, incredible. I'm sure that...
like that's phenomenal if you think about it. That's very, very interesting.
The amazing solo album, Off the Wall, was right around the corner. This is one of his most famous albums. Actually, pretty much all of them are like his most famous album. Everyone knows Michael. Yeah. Off the Wall was right around the corner. It was released in 1979, and the pop album included hits such as Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You. He quickly won 3 American Music Awards and a Grammy for Best Male R&B Vocal Performance, all in 1980, and in 1981 he won 2 more AMAs.
Who's done that since? Has anyone done that?
Well, he's not even close.
No, but I mean, like, just with their most. Has anyone done that? They've done 3 American Music Awards, a Grammy, and 2 more AMAs, all in the same year.
There's others who have done it, but he still holds a record. We'll talk about later. He holds a record. I can't remember. Once I get to it, I'll remember. Obviously, when I see it. But he shares a record with Santana.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but so he won a lot of awards. But 1980. Spelled out the big money for Michael. Like, he was making money, but now the big money was going to start coming in. The highest royalty rate in the music industry fell into Michael's lap. 37% of wholesale album profit.
Is huge. Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
37% of wholesale album profit.
I don't know rates, but I have to imagine that's not.
If you're someone who's not quite like numbers oriented, or like I don't care about percentage. What does that mean? It means a lot of money. A lot of money. It means Michael was a very rich man. And that's just the beginning. Just the beginning. All right. Are you looking us up? Are you trying to do the math yourself? I hear the typing. 37%. Do you have any idea over there?
No, I'm looking up how much Justin Bieber makes.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. But this was, at the time, record-breaking wholesale album profit. Almost 40%. Which, I don't even think...
I have to imagine Bieber probably makes close to that.
Well...
He makes a lot of money.
Yeah, it's good money.
Yeah.
But moving along. Michael Jackson and Queen's Freddie Mercury actually attempted a collaboration, but it ultimately didn't work out due to Michael bringing a llama into the recording studio and pissing off Freddie. And Michael...
Wait. Why would he bring a llama?
He was a very eccentric guy, which...
Jen, wait a second. There's eccentric is someone who goes to Starbucks and orders... the pink drink or whatever that drink is, the drink that, like, you know what I'm talking about.
James Charles drink.
Yes, that's eccentric. Or someone showing up to the office for work and they're wearing swim trunks. That's an eccentric person. A person who brings a llama into the recording studio.
Well, okay. Then here's the question. So that pissed Freddie off, but Michael was turned off by Freddie's extreme and consistent drug use while they were trying to record. So which is worse?
The llama. The llama is 100% worse. Not suggesting the drug use is okay. I'm just saying the llama's going to poo. It's going to poop. You're going to poop in the studio.
The songs that Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson recorded together from 1981 through 1983 were actually not released until 2014. So if you want to go take a listen, go hear them. Did Drake use one of them? Was that one of the ones that he... I'm not exactly sure. I feel like we should, after this is over, take a listen. Because I'm quite interested to hear what the two of them sound like together.
Michael's singing about the llama and Freddie's singing about drug use.
He's like, cocaine and llamas.
They start screaming at each other.
Oh, boy. Jackson's 6th album, Thriller, was released in 1982 to much fanfare. Everyone knows Thriller. Everyone knows Thriller. It was the best-selling album in the world in 1983 and the best-selling album of all time in the U.S. and the best-selling album of all time worldwide.
Still? Wow.
70 million copies sold, top of the Billboard 200 chart for 37 weeks in a row, and top 10 of the 200 for 80 consecutive weeks.
What do you do? What do you do?
Make good music.
No. What do you do if that happens to you? I can't imagine. What was he thinking?
You'll find out.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, what he had to have been.
I feel like at that point, I'd just be like, get me a sailboat.
I would crawl into a hole.
Give me some books and do not contact me for
I would disappear.
10 to 15 years. I will be on a boat.
I would pull a Gautier and disappear. I would just disappear. I would literally let it go. Be like, okay, I'm done. I've reached the peak. Don't need to do anything else.
I'm going to go build my fortress in Wyoming.
I'm going to go
with walls 100 feet tall around my house.
I'm going to build my fortress on the moon. I'm going to invest in the moon, and that's what I'll do. That is what I would do. I would become an angel investor of the moon.
Well, it was the first album. Thriller was the first album to have 7 top 10 singles. Billie Jean, Beat It, Want to Be Starting Something. You know all those songs. How do you think that 37% was looking at that point?
Like money was
no object
growing out of the air.
Yeah. Michael performed Billie Jean on a NBC television special and was nominated for an Emmy.
He was nominated for an enema.
Performance. He was nominated for an Emmy for this specific performance. It's one of his most famous performances of all time. It was the first time he sported the one white glove with the rhinestones and moonwalked. And that made the ultimate image of Michael Jackson that we still think of today. All the time you see the white glove and the moonwalking. Actually, they incorporated... So in Las Vegas, they have a Circus Olay show.
We've seen.
And it's really, it's great. I highly recommend it. But a lot of it...
They leave out a lot of the
white glove.
Well, yeah, they leave out a lot of the controversial stuff too, which is kind of a bummer. I kind of wish they had that part. Like
you
a very
wish
dramatic...
that part was in the...
Like a dramatic like soap opera excerpt would have been great in that. It would have really...
I have no comment for you.
It would have changed the dynamic just a bit to where I would have been a little bit more invested, but I still think it was good. Quite enjoyable.
It was fantastic.
9 out of 10.
I highly recommend it.
It would have been 10 out of 10 with that segment. Written and produced by me.
Michael had originally tried backing out of that show, the NBC television special.
Why?
He was performing, it was actually a television special for the Jacksons. It wasn't specifically for Michael, but he agreed to do it if he could have one solo performance. And this was his solo performance. And,
Wait, was it before or after the Jacksons performed?
After. It was the
okay.
Could you imagine? Afterwards, like, A, B, C.
Yeah.
Easy as 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
He was compared... because of this performance to Elvis Presley, the Beatles. Everyone was mesmerized by his dancing.
He's so much better. He's so much better than both of those.
Well, think about it. The first time you see something like that, oh my gosh.
It's not even about, like, I get like the Elvis, I get the comparisons. I just think he's just so much more like talented as a musician, frankly. I mean, I recognize what Elvis and the Beatles did for the music industry. I'm not discounting that. I just think that comparisons, it's like comparing a Bugatti to like the first electric car. Like very cool first electric car. First electric car is very cool, but the Bugatti goes 250 miles an hour.
So you're saying that Elvis Presley is an electric Prius? Oh boy.
Maybe.
At the 26th annual Grammys, Thriller took the cake with 8 awards.
Wow.
Taking the record still today and sharing it with Santana. So there's the record.
So what was Santana? Was Santana's what's his song?
Gift from the
heaven. What is that song?
I don't want to.
That's not Santana. Is that Santana?
How far is heaven? Yeah, it is. That's Santana. Heaven? I'm pretty sure that's Santana. Well, I don't know if that's the song they won for, but that's like probably their most famous song. But yeah.
What was it? Was it Supernatural and the single Smooth? Really? Was that really what it was?
I don't know. Either way, he shares that record still today.
Huh.
Even with the Biebers and the Ariana Grandes and all.
What year was it? It was 19.
It's the 26th annual Grammys, but he didn't like share it when they won. They didn't win
99.
the same year.
It was 99.
Okay. Either way, at the 11th AMAs that same year, Michael won another 8 awards, and Thriller's sales doubled, also ramping up with the release of the iconic
Santana
Thriller.
won 99. Yeah, it was 99. So not the same year, but
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
The iconic Thriller music video also came out after he won those 16 awards, and everyone started, the zombies.
You think that's going to be around when we're old? You think kids are going to be doing that?
I think it's going to be one of those songs they play at dances. You know how like they do the cha-cha slide, like Cupid Shuffle at weddings and dances and stuff?
Do you think
Thriller,
it's really going to last that long? I don't know if it's going to last that long.
It's a pretty, everyone knows the Thriller dance. I remember being on like a cruise ship when I was a teenager and like they had everyone do the Thriller dance.
Yeah, but you have to remember everyone doing the Thriller dance was from the time that they did Thriller dance.
They were doing it too.
Yeah, because their parents were doing it.
And then their kids will do it too.
I don't know. That'll be interesting to see.
Well, he was super, super successful at this point, as I'm sure you can imagine, at least in terms of money and fame and notoriety. Well, maybe that comes later. But now he was being dubbed the king of pop. And he was making about $2 for every album sold. In today's money, that would be $5. Literally going straight in his pocket for every album sold.
Depending on what you're selling and how much it is.
And that's 2021 money. So in 2022 money, that's probably like
isn't
$10.
I can't remember the last time I bought a CD, but wasn't it like $10, $15 CD?
I don't even know how much a CD is today.
Do we even buy CDs anymore?
I think they sell CDs still. I have no way to play one. I don't even have a CD player in my car.
I don't know. I've never seen a CD player. What is that? I have a disc player. I could play one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, who knows? He was world renowned, though, and New York Times described it as, in the world of pop music, there's Michael Jackson, and then there is everybody else.
That's when they were a newspaper, right? Yeah. It's a good take.
Depends on who
you
ask.
That was a good one, yeah.
In 1983, Michael partnered with his brothers and PepsiCo for a $5 million deal, a record-breaking celebrity endorsement at the time. In today's money, or well, in 2021 money, so do the math and what 2022 money looks like.
That's not even a lot now.
In 2022 money, I'm not sure, but in 2021 money, it would be $13.5 million. Yeah. PepsiCo revised Billie Jean for its jingle with the permission of Michael. Mm-hmm.
There was a PepsiCo Billie Jean commercial.
Yes. And lots of commercial activities and sponsorships for Michael and his brothers. However, during a commercial shoot for PepsiCo on January 27th, 1984, pyrotechnics accidentally caught Michael's hair on fire and gave him secondary burns to his scalp, which mutilated his scalp. Oh, you didn't know this?
Was he breaks his nose and then he gets burned on his head?
It was pretty bad, and it contributes a lot to lots of issues in his life.
What in God's name?
He was severely
arguably the most famous person in the world at that time, and the commercial guys, the pyrotechnics crew, decides to light him on fire.
Well, it was
that is terrible.
By all accounts, an accident, but a negligent accident all the same. And he was horrified, and he went to the hospital and underwent treatment to hide his severe scars. Underwent his now third rhinoplasty, and PepsiCo settled out of court. Michael donated the entire settlement of his $1.5 million settlement to Brotman Medical Center in Culver City, California. So he did settle with PepsiCo, but donated the entire settlement, and then would later sign another agreement with PepsiCo down the road in the late 80s for $10 million.
It tells you that he literally has no need for any money at all.
Yeah, one trend you'll see, I didn't dive into every bit of it because there was so much, but one thing very clear about Michael was he was very charitable with his money. He
just didn't need it. I mean,
he really money was no object for him for most of his life.
He brought a llama to a studio.
He did give a lot to charity.
Where did he get the llama? Did he go to a llama farm? Like, this is the thing I have to... What happened? I'm still stuck on the llama. What happened to allow him to bring the... Did he just randomly stop by a llama farm? Did he send one of his goons to go get the llama? Did the llama farm send him?
People have llamas as pets, you know. We used to live next to people who had llamas as pets.
They didn't have llamas as pets.
Yes.
Who?
Yes. Down the street from us where we used to live before we lived here. You don't remember that?
No.
There's 2 llamas in their backyard.
I have no recollection.
Well, I'll remind you later.
That's a farm animal. It's not a pet. It's an animal that walks around your farm and eats grass.
Well, President Ronald Reagan awarded Michael in 1984 for his support of alcohol and drug abuse charities and initiatives. For his campaign, he used the song Beat It with Michael Jackson's permission. Beat it, your addiction. beat your addiction.
Yeah.
The Jacksons,
They didn't workshop that one.
It worked at the time. The Jacksons went on a victory tour in 1984, and the last he did with his brothers was this tour. It was done after that. Michael donated his share of the proceeds from ticket sales because apparently there was some controversy here. I didn't dive too deeply into what exactly it was, but there was a big issue, and he ended up donating approximately $3 to $5 million of the ticket sales that went in his direction to charity. And during his final performance at the Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California, he announced that he would be splitting from his brothers permanently. Yeah. I don't know what kind of drama might have happened because there tends to always be drama.
I've got a question. Why don't celebrities use Michael Jackson as a guide for what they should do? Why don't they do that?
There's a lot we're not about to talk about.
I'm not talking about the notoriety. I'm not talking about the notorious stuff. I'm talking about the charity stuff. I'm not saying a lot of them don't.
A lot of celebrities do give tons of money away.
$3 to $5 million is a lot. That's a lot. I know there's some. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying. I mean, that's.
Well, I think
it's not as common. I just don't. It's not talked about.
Maybe it's just not shared as much in the media.
Maybe,
but. Partnering with Lionel Richie, Michael released We Are the World, another famous song, in 1985 and raised approximately $63 million, which in 2021 money would be $158,728,032 for the poor in the United States and Africa. And the song won 4 Grammys and Song of the Year. There is a viral reel or TikTok or whatever that shows them recording this song, and it just cracks me up. I showed it to you.
Funniest thing I have ever seen,
4 or 5 times, because it made me laugh. It's Michael singing, and he's just pitch perfect. He's singing in the studio. He got his sunglasses on. He's really into it, and then he steps back,
and then they bring in the other people.
I don't know. I can't remember exactly who it was. I'm so sorry. I'm sure they're wonderful, but they were all off pitch and singing terribly.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
And Michael's just sitting there he's got his sunglasses on, so you can't see his eyes or anything.
You can see his facial expression.
But all I could think of was, oh. But as you can see, they raised a ton of money with that song. So apparently, no harm, no foul. But he also partnered with Paul McCartney from the Beatles. And Michael learned that Paul was making $40 million a year after buying the rights to other artists' songs. Michael was interested in doing the same. So in 1983, he began doing that as well. He ended up purchasing the rights to several other music catalogs, and in 1984, he later acquired most of the Beatles' songs by purchasing ATV Music.
How much did he buy it for, is my question. And also, how is that even possible?
Well, there's a long, convoluted story here, but Paul didn't want to buy certain things, so Michael ended up doing it.
No, I understand. I just mean it it's just interesting that we have these controversies these days about copyright and trademark and all that jazz. But then within the music industry, if you make enough money, you can just buy the rights to everyone else's stuff.
Well, think about it. There was a very famous altercation in the last couple of years where Taylor Swift got very upset. She tried buying her music. Whatever studio wouldn't let her do it. And then they sold all of her music to Scooter Braun, who's Justin Bieber's handler. I don't know what he is. Agent. Whatever he is. And she got really upset. So that's why she's now re-recording all of her own songs. Because so she has the original songs, literally on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get them. They're all owned by Big Machine Records now, which is Scooter Braun's thing. But she's re-recording all of them. And if you look it up, they all say Taylor's version. So that's why her fans... I'll encourage you to listen to Taylor's version because...
It's too much drama. I don't listen. I don't.
It's a lot.
Sorry.
But let's talk about his appearance change.
What are you talking about?
Many people...
What do you mean?
...have noticed when they would look at before and after photos of Michael Jackson. Don't laugh. It's not funny because there is actually some crazy stuff here. Okay. Keep it together, mister. Keep it together.
The only image I have in my head right now, and please take this with a grain of salt, and there's a reason why it pops in my head, but the only image I have in my head is from a specific Batman movie.
What?
You don't know. I can't even make the reference because you don't even know.
Yeah. I don't know. While Michael was growing up, he was a dark-skinned young man, and he began to grow paler as time went on, as he was, through his fame. And there was lots of speculation that he was bleaching his skin. However, he was diagnosed with vitiligo, which is a skin-losing pigment. I also have a similar issue. It just means your skin tends to...
Does it happen over time?
Yeah, it's not usually something that's like there from day one. Yeah, it happens over time. Sometimes it stops, different areas of body. Sometimes it grows a lot. Sometimes it's an autoimmune disorder. Basically, you just start losing pigment in spots. And some people have it much more extreme than others. Mine is very subtle. His was apparently pretty extreme. And he also was diagnosed with lupus, which is another autoimmune disorder. And that tends to happen when you have one autoimmune disorder, you're more likely to have more than one. But he was also wearing lots of makeup and likely using skin bleaching creams to cover up the vitiligo patches. It's actually very common. I think in Black people are more commonly diagnosed with vitiligo. That might be because it's maybe more obvious, because obviously they have more melanin in their skin. However, oftentimes it shows up on the face. That is the most common, I believe, place that it shows up. I'm not a doctor. If you are suspicious in your own life of this being a thing, go see a doctor. Don't listen to me. I'm just sitting here on a podcast. But anyway, I have to say that these days. But he insisted that he was not lightening his skin on purpose. He would state that when people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me. Because obviously there was a lot of people who were saying that he didn't like being a Black man and he was trying to change this color of his skin on purpose. Though Michael and people close to him said that his vitiligo really affected his, mental health and his self-image and all that stuff.
I can only imagine how much mental trauma he was dealing with.
Well, after his passing, his mother did say that he was deeply upset about the vitiligo and he would undergo anything to disguise it or get rid of it. So do with that information what you will. Who knows? Like when you have that much money, all options are available to you.
Sounds kind of scary.
So yeah, it is quite stark. If you look at a picture of Michael Jackson when he was younger and then just 10 years later, some people say he's unrecognizable.
Some. No offense. Not the same person. Does not look anything like.
Well, besides the rhinoplasties as well, because he had several, Michael also underwent cleft chin surgery, which very distinct cleft chin surgery.
Why did he do that?
Why do people get plastic surgery?
He had a chin. He didn't need to.
Why do people get plastic surgery at all? I know beautiful women and men who get plastic surgery.
This
would argue they don't need it.
No, see, as much as it's traumatizing, this is where I get skeptical because you bring up a good point. There are people who tend to get plastic surgery just like there are people who tend to get tattoos and they get more tattoos and they get more work done and all that jazz. And it makes me think that might have happened. I have no judgment for it. You want to do that, that's fine. It's just my question in a lot of ways is just why. You can if you want to. If that's your answer, it's fine. It's a good enough answer. Just sometimes I just think people get a little wrapped up. I think that might have happened just a little bit.
Yeah. We don't know what was going on in his head for sure, but He did say that was all the surgery he had done.
Maybe.
Many speculate that he actually was suffering from anorexia after attempting to drop to a very low body weight to achieve what he called a dancer's body. He was very thin, and he would often get dizzy, which was said by people close to him. Again, after his death, his mother said that he had more than those 2 procedures and he was actually addicted to plastic surgery. I don't know. I'm also like, Mom, what are you doing? Your son's dead. What's the point of this? Are you trying to... I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Famously, in 1986, few rumors swirled that Michael slept in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which is funny. You and I have never been inside one, but we went to a med spa where they had one, and the first thing they told us was, this is the one that Michael Jackson had.
They said that?
You don't remember that? Yeah.
No, that was a very interesting day for me. Only you and I know why.
That's a whole other story.
We're never going to bring that story up.
No.
Yeah, that was just, yeah.
Regardless, a hyperbaric oxygen chamber is basically...
Can you sleep in those?
Well, you're not supposed to. And it's said that this was exaggerated. He did have one, but he didn't sleep in it. But yeah, basically it's just like pure oxygen and you lay down inside of it. But my understanding is how you're not supposed to like sleep in them for periods of time like that or anything. But It was a famous tabloid photo of him lying in one, and they started these rumors. He sleeps on one every night. I don't know. Yeah. But in 1988, he had his autobiography published, and it was called Moonwalk. And Michael referenced his strict vegetarian diet as another reason for his appearance changing so drastically.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna call BS. This is where look, this is where I get lost in the sauce, because it's like,
lost in the sauce.
What? Okay. Maybe you were addicted to plastic surgery. Maybe you had some eating disorders. But now you're saying in your autobiography, you look the way that you do because you're a vegetarian?
Well, it wasn't. He agreed to, like, I got the nose job, I got the chin job, I'm trying to lose weight.
Okay.
Like he said all that. It wasn't just that I'm a vegetarian.
Okay, that makes way more sense.
He just mentioned that as another reason why he thinks he looks so different. Because he basically,
your vegetables.
in his autobiography, he was trying to make a point, like, I'm not trying to change my appearance, because in the sense of, like,
he didn't want to seem like he was. Yeah, I get it.
I don't hate that I'm a black man
type,
because that was the type of rumors that was going on.
Yeah.
Michael, you've been talking about the llama a lot. He did have a pet chimpanzee named Bubbles.
Why?
And he took Bubbles on tour with him in Japan.
It's a wild animal.
He seemed very interested as well in the skeleton of the Elephant Man, Joseph Merrick. You've heard of him before? He was like, he had like
elephantitis.
Yes. And apparently his skeleton was at a museum, and someone said on behalf of Michael Jackson, I'm bidding on the skeleton, and the museum's like, it's not for sale. And Michael said later that's not true. Michael was like, I didn't bid on the skeleton, so I don't know.
I could just imagine some dude walking in and he has a little like bid card. Yeah. It's just a normal museum.
It's just one of those weird things. It's like, I don't know.
He goes to this tour with some kids from a school, and kids are and this is the Elephant Man, kids. He suffered from a very rare degenerative disorder, and all of a sudden the guy says, yes, 1 million.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those
funny.
things. Michael said that he was not interested in the skeleton. He doesn't know what that's about. But someone showed up saying they were there on behalf of him to buy it. And the museum's like, well, it's not for sale. So who knows? Just some oddities there.
So, yeah, okay.
Here's the thing. The media, as always, they will always turn on you eventually, right? And the Sun...
They're never on your side.
No.
They're never on anyone's side. The only side they're on is the sinking ship that they're a part of. That's the only side they're on. They'll say that they're on your side as long as you're useful. And then when you become not useful, they're not on your side anymore. That's why people should stop looking at them at any relevance of importance. Their medium is like that of the cassette player.
Nice. Well, the media... notably The Sun, which is a tabloid in the UK, also famous these days, just recently sued by Johnny Depp, didn't win, but yes, The Sun.
Poor babies.
That same Sun. They began calling him Wacko Jacko, which was not a very nice term in general, and Michael hated that nickname, but also there's some racist connotations here because Jacko is a Cockney slang for monkey.
Yikes.
Yeah.
So I got a question. Do communications majors go into the media? Is that where they go?
I mean, sometimes. A lot of journalism majors.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there was some racist connotations there. I think you can correlate, which is a really ugly part of this whole story, but we're not even to the worst of it yet. So prepare yourself, but I think it's time for a break.
And we are back to talk about Michael Jackson, and it's now going to get a little dirty,
bit bad,
bit sad trombone, just a little bit
sad trombone.
Because we've been through the beautiful part of the story, and now we're going to the concerning part.
Well, we're edging into it slowly, but yes, we will.
Where we won't hear any of these.
Keep in mind, if you're someone listening to this, we're not quite there yet, but if something such as the disgusting act of
Well, you'll find out. You'll find out. That's just where we'll go. Anyway, let's talk more about Michael and some of his more success. Some of his more success. That's what we'll talk about.
Bad, which was one of his albums, which I'm sure you've heard of. I know you love the song Bad. It's a fantastic song. Was released in 1987 and has now sold 45 million copies worldwide. It won lots of awards, and the Bad World Tour was from September 1987 through January 1989. 570,000 people attended.
God, that's a long-ass tour.
I know.
That's a really long tour.
Can you imagine how stressful that must be? Touring for that long?
Jeez.
I would be sick of everybody by that point.
No, thanks.
I'd be like, literally, do not call me or bother me for years. I'm done.
Yeah.
So, stressful life, to be sure. But Michael purchased a 2,700-acre plot of land in Santa Ynez, yeah. Santa Ynez. I should know that. Santa Ynez, California, in March of 1988.
It's okay. You got a California education. They didn't teach
oh my gosh.
grammar.
It was just under 30 million in 2021 money, but 17 million at the time is what he purchased that acre plot for, or 2,700 acre plot for. It included he built his new home there, and it included a movie theater, a zoo, a Ferris wheel, carousel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He built it.
Yeah, that's...
He built it. Massive security was on the grounds, too. Lots of employees.
How old was he then?
Neverland Ranch.
How old was he then?
In 1988.
His 40s?
He was born... no, not yet. He was in his 30s. Early 30s, I believe.
So...
Or late 20s, early 30s.
Imagine me...
Math is hard.
Imagine me building a massive house on almost a 3,000 square foot acre plot of land
with a carousel on it,
with a zoo, a carousel, a Ferris wheel, and a movie theater.
Yeah,
that's kind of strange. Just a tad.
Yeah,
just a little bit strange. Just a little bit.
It's
because he's done a lot of living at that time.
He doesn't have kids yet either.
That makes it weird.
Yeah, a lot of people argue it makes it very weird.
Very strange.
So
that's like me erecting a giant dollhouse.
Well, that was Neverland Ranch, the infamous Neverland Ranch. It was a huge, huge piece of property. Lots of eccentric things about it.
That's not eccentric, but sure.
By 2018, the Dangerous album, so this is post his passing, this album would sell 32 million copies. Dangerous. You're going to know songs on this one too. Released in March of 1991, Michael ran the Dangerous tour from June 1992 through November of 1993. It grossed $100 million, which would be $187,583,506 in 2021 money. So double that for 2022 money. And 3.5 million people attended, and all 70 concerts were outside of the United States. All of them. He donated a huge amount of this.
Why?
He donated a huge amount of the proceeds to Heal the World Foundation, and he sold the broadcasting rights to HBO for $20 million, which is interesting considering HBO also produced and released a documentary called Finding Neverland, which accused him of several things posthumously.
But can we ever find Neverland? I mean, Peter Pan and Disney
was it Finding Neverland? I don't remember.
That was a movie. Finding Neverland was a movie.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, that movie was not about
correct.
Michael Jackson.
It's just interesting that there's that correlation there. But anyway, it's still the largest HBO deal today. He performed at the 1993 Super Bowl, which my father went to, so he got to see him perform the halftime show. He talks about it being amazing.
$2. For 15 cents and a pack of gum.
He's just told me that it was one of the best performances
for a t-shirt, for one of those tags on a t-shirt. That's how much it costs.
Well, it was shortly after this January 1993 Super Bowl that he gave a famous interview with Oprah Winfrey, and where he spoke of his difficult childhood. It was like the first time he really opened up about some of his childhood things, his extreme loneliness as an adult, and how he was so upset the tabloids were spreading so much lies about him. So it was one of those like moments in his career. But the tidal wave was not yet hitting the shore, and Michael did not quite know that yet. So in August of 1993, later that same year, 13-year-old Jordan Chandler and his father, Evan Chandler, accused Michael of sexual assault on a minor. Michael denied this. He claimed that the father was jealous and extorting him for money. The mother denied it happened and then changed her story to the police later. Michael's sister actually accused him of being a pedophile at the time. She later recanted that story, saying that her husband was abusive and forcing her to agree with the accusations. And police searched Michael's house. They found 2 large legal format art books showing young boys playing in various stages of undress, and Jackson denied that he even knew these books existed. He said that these must have been sent to him. He hadn't opened them. He didn't know what they were. And 2 other young boys named Wade Robson and James Safechuck, remember these names? They testified in Jackson's defense. Now and again in 2005, after his second allegations, which we will get to. However, both would later recant their defenses and file a lawsuit against Jackson's estate in 2013 and 2014 after Michael had passed, saying they were also sexually abused by him and that they had only spoken in his defense because they didn't understand what had happened to them.
I use this in other podcasts, but I tend to align with the ideology of Occam's razor, which is the most simplest explanation is likely the correct one. The first one we have is a celebrity was blackmailed by a father and son duo who had the wherewithal to be able to send him 2 books that had children drawn in various stages of undress, to which Michael or whoever would have gotten these books did not open in his house from, I would assume, at any point in 1993, which seems complicated. Because you'd think that the people that send him stuff, like his mail, is like vetted by people. You'd think that that would be something he'd have in place as a celebrity. Maybe not in 1993, but definitely now. Or you have the alternative, which is he happened to like sleepovers with children, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, those 2 that testified in his defense, or at least, you know, they were defending Michael throughout this when they were young, who later said that they were being sexually abused by Michael after he had passed in 2013 and 2014. Both of their lawsuits would be dismissed due to time barred and lack of evidence. Time barred, excuse me, and lack of evidence. However, one of them is still trying to appeal today, even today. So, and then they helped produce the HBO documentary I mentioned, and that's where a lot of people have. I haven't actually watched it myself, so I can't speak on that. And honestly, part of me, that stuff's so heavy. You don't want to, but it's like it's important. But
here's the real problem that I have, and this comes back to I've had this discussion recently on the Wolf and Bull. Shout out Wolf and Bull. There are a lot of hero worship goes on, and it happens all over the place. And this is a prime example of that. Now, I'm not implying that Michael did anything because I don't know. I don't have any evidence. With that being said, it's not every day that people just get accused of that stuff all the time. Now,
in total, at least 4 have publicly accused him of sexual abuse when they were children.
Why don't we believe them, but we believe... interesting. Questions I have.
Well, here's the thing, and to remember as we continue, Michael has not been or was never convicted for any of these charges or accusations. He was charged later on. We'll talk to that, and he was acquitted on all charges. So
because he's Michael Jackson.
From a legal standpoint, there is no guilt here. So that's how I'm approaching the situation right now. Just from
there's no criminal charges.
Explaining what happened, right? So eventually, though, the accuser, 13-year-old Jordan Chandler, and his father, they did settle out of court with Michael Jackson for a reported $23 million. Michael later said that he regretted settling because of what happened later, is what he said. No criminal charges were pressed or filed for this accusation, and it was due to what was cited as a lack of evidence, and the case was officially closed in 1994 after the settlement. So that was the first All right. We'll talk about the second later because that one got a little more wild. But this time, as you can probably imagine, whether guilty or not, was an extremely stressful time for Michael. And after the extreme scalp injuries he had endured after that PepsiCo commercial, he was prescribed pain medication and painkillers, and he started becoming dependent on them during this time. After the sexual assault allegations came out, he soon was, addicted to these painkillers. And in late 1993, he proposed to Lisa Marie Presley, the daughter of Elvis Presley, shortly after these accusations came out. And they were married in La Vega, Dominican Republic. I'm like, have you... Dominican Republic? Is it the Dominican Republic or it's just Dominican Republic?
We'll just stick with Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, in May 1994, they got married, and the media speculated that this was a publicity stunt to side skirt those accusations. However, the marriage ended very shortly afterwards in December of 1995, filed for
irreconcilable.
Thank you. There are some words
Irreconcilable,
today.
yeah.
Irreconcilable. For some reason, I feel like I need to learn English words.
Yes. Yeah. This is, Jen is actually learning. She's using Duolingo.
Yes. My first language
is English, and her second language is English.
Well, Presley, she later said that she loved him dearly, and they did try getting back together and reconciling many times after the divorce was finalized. But
what were those irreconcilable differences?
I don't know. But yes, that was his first wife, Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis Presley's daughter.
Jokes I can't say.
However, it was not his last. Michael did get married again, and he got married to Debbie Rowe, who was his dermatologist assistant in 1996. At the time of their wedding, she was 6 months pregnant with his first child, Michael Joseph Jackson Jr. And on February 13th, 1997, he was born. Now, she also mothered his second child, a daughter named Paris Michael Catherine Jackson, on April 3rd, 1998. And Debbie and Michael divorced in 1999. Debbie actually conceded custody of both of her children, and she was given an $8 million divorce settlement, which in today's money would be about $14.5 million. Which, call me crazy, I think that's quite a low number.
It's a low number.
And she gave up custody of her kids.
Well, did she?
I don't know for what reason. I have no idea.
Did she use his bed as a bathroom though? Because she might have won more.
No. No comment.
Wait. Yeah, it's. Oh damn. Well, there we go.
Oh
yeah, technology.
Okay. There you go. Actually, Debbie, after this was all settled, she would later take Jackson to court when he was accused again of child molestation to try and file for custody of the children. But that was all settled separately. But yeah, so she did come back around. But in 2003, Michael had a third child, a son named Prince Michael Jackson II. He was nicknamed Blanket, which I know you think is just a hysterical name.
There's so many. Look, I've had to control myself for this episode because I am a big fan of South Park. And some of those episodes, specifically with Michael Jackson in them, are some of my favorite episodes. Mm-hmm. And I've had to resist quoting that show because it wouldn't be appropriate.
Wait until the cameras are off, and then I
want to go watch those episodes.
Watch South Park. But Blanket was born via an anonymous surrogate mother via artificial insemination, and infamously, which you may have seen this image, Michael held the baby Blanket over the railing from his Berlin hotel room 4 stories high, showing him off to the paparazzi. And it caused widespread criticism, which I think is an understatement. And most parents are horrified. Not even parents. Most people are horrified when you dangle a baby over 4 stories. It's not funny. Stop laughing. It's not funny at all.
The image of Lion King.
Have you seen this?
No, but the image of Lion King on Pride Rock, it pops into my head, which...
It's similar, but he apologized profusely afterwards, saying that it was a dumb and horrible mistake on his part.
Sure, yeah. Sometimes you just don't need to say things.
He literally held him up over the side of a railing, like a baby, like infant. But anyway.
Oh, man. Ouch.
So second child abuse allegations.
There we go.
We're going to roll right into it. Okay. A documentary film that rolled out in May of 2002 and on. So it started filming in 2002, May of 2002. And it aired in February 2003. It was titled Living with Michael Jackson. It captured video of Michael holding hands and discussing sleeping arrangements with a 12-year-old boy. He said that sleepovers and sharing a bed, quote, okay, with various other people were nothing new, not abnormal to him. And he clarified that he meant he'd give up his bed and sleep on the floor. He didn't mind sharing his bed. People freaked out, which I think is pretty understandable. Michael insisted that it wasn't sexual. It was being misrepresented by the media, which even if somehow it's not sexual, it's pretty alarming.
How old was he in 2003?
He wasn't a child. I don't know.
Jen.
I don't know how old he was at 2003. I'm not going to do the math right now because I need a calculator. But Macaulay Culkin was apparently a good friend of Michael.
I bet he was.
You've seen Home Alone. Macaulay Culkin was young.
Michael was not home alone with Macaulay, was he?
And Macaulay Culkin would often spend the night at Michael Jackson's house. Macaulay Culkin claimed that this was being blown way out of proportion. He jumped to Michael's defense and still today holds that defense. He said that Michael was very poor at explaining himself, that his bedroom was like 2 stories, 3 bathrooms, this huge thing, and that it wasn't at all how he was making it out to be. However,
Macaulay, you are spending the evening with a grown man.
Well, Macaulay Culkin said that him and Michael Jackson bonded over the child's stardom.
That's still...
And that they had pillow fights, but it was never sexual, and it was...
Still odd. That's still strange.
It's still a grown man.
Like, yes, it's not like I'm not implying anything when it comes to, because I don't know, I wasn't there. But from third, as a grown man, as someone who is a grown man, I'm 30 years old. No, there's not a single inkling. I would be concerned with anybody if there was a single inkling with anyone outside of your son or daughter who is either your legal son born or daughter born or an adopted son, daughter born, with them being anywhere near your bedroom.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions I have about that. I'm like,
Why?
even in the best case scenario, I'm of the opinion this is really bad. It's like really bad.
Like, Michael, it's your bedroom. You have a giant mansion. There are other rooms where your bed's not there.
Well, December 18th, 2003, Santa Barbara police charged Michael Jackson with 7 counts of child molestation, 2 counts of intoxicating a minor with alcoholic drinks. He pleads not guilty, adamantly, and the trial was the People versus Jackson that began on January 31st, 2005 in Santa Maria, California. It went on to end in May of that year, and if convicted, he was going to face 20 years in prison. But on June 13th, the verdict came back. The jury had acquitted him on all counts. And in December of 2009, the FBI did release its investigation on behalf of the case, or in relation to the case, and they had found no wrongdoing by Jackson. So that's just something to keep in mind.
What is the context? Were the children at his home?
Yes.
How did they get their hands on alcohol?
Well, so there were various members of Jackson's staff who said they saw them drunk, saw him give them. Many of them said that they watched Macaulay Culkin and Jackson like actually physically interact inappropriately, like extreme ways. And Macaulay Culkin apparently was very upset and said this is ridiculous. These are straight up lies. It's not true. It got wild. And that was in 2003, 2004, 2005. So that was not that long ago. I don't know if you remember. I
remember bits and pieces.
He famously stood on the car and waved at all of his fans outside the courthouse after the acquittal.
So this, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a very specific other case that was much more extreme, in which a celebrity athlete got away with something. And to this day, has gotten away with it. And as more and more footage comes out, it's very creepy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, he did get away with that.
Well, again,
it seems similar.
In the U.S. criminal system, he was charged and acquitted. for this case.
The U.S. criminal system happens to have a lot of loopholes.
There were many celebrities that came to his defense.
Of course there were.
Well, here's something to consider. I didn't dive too deep into this because really it's a whole story in itself.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
The child who accused Michael, who this case was surrounded by, was a cancer patient. And his parents were well known for going to celebrities for money for his cancer treatments. Mm-hmm. And several other celebrities had interacted with them and had warned Michael not to interact with them because of extortionist accusations against his parents. A lot of them. So there was a lot of issues here regarding parents using their sick child to get money out of people. We're also
talking about the staff, though, too, right? I mean, the staff in on it as well?
Well, not all the staff. Like, it was very, like, split down the middle. Some staff were like, this is not true. Some were involved. There was accusations of money being passed along to say this or that. One thing is for certain, there were other celebrities who said they had interacted with this family before, and they were very much... at least this is what was said in court. They were often going to celebrities for money. And at one point, who was it? Jay Leno had dealt with them before. Not Chris Rock.
Harvey Weinstein.
No, not Harvey Weinstein. A couple of others. In fact, one of them had accused one of the celebrities of stealing like $300 from their wallet and like all sorts of... There was a lot here. It was very detailed. And the jury ended up agreeing with all of that. So that's.
How do you even find someone like Michael Jackson guilty? I mean, like the only reason someone like Michael Jackson, so I guess what's his name, R. Kelly, someone in the same situation, the only reason he was found guilty is because he's not as famous and because it was 100% verifiable evidence.
I don't know, but yeah, it got really, really ugly there. And after the trial, Michael became a recluse, as one could imagine. And to avoid bankruptcy...
What?
Mm-hmm.
What?
There's
a
lot of money and a lot of money spent. And think of these accusations and the money you spend in court. And also, he had basically no sponsorships anymore. He was not being he had a really dark period in the early 2000s, before his death. He was silent. He wasn't anything like it was in the years before. And his financial advisors urged him to make a deal with Sony Music. She did. And he ended up closing Neverland Ranch to cut costs. Michael never went back to Neverland Ranch again after these accusations. Literally never went back again. Never stepped foot on the property.
Can I interject?
Yes.
This is why I think celebrities need people on their payroll that are literally professional psychopaths. As in, their job is to make sure, by punishment of death, to make sure that the celebrity doesn't do anything ridiculous.
A lot of them do have that, though. A lot of them have handlers. I was not kidding about the handler thing.
So how does the most famous celebrity, arguably of all time, I would put him up there, of all time, way up there. He's top 10.
When you're that famous and you're that rich...
Yeah, but...
You got a lot of people around you who don't have your best interest.
He could have avoided this by not spending time with children.
Yeah. And then people who advocate for Michael say that regardless, he was a young soul.
Go get help. Yeah. Young souls who are adults who play with children, you know what those are called? There's a name for them. Starts with a P. Yeah. That's what its name is. That's what that is. Well, so that's where all this comes back for me. Now, I'm not saying, look, again, I'm not saying that he was guilty of anything. I'm merely pointing out, how do you defend that? Think about this. How do you defend? You can't defend that. It's hard to defend. Very hard to defend.
His life, he felt, at least at one point, I can assume, was totally ruined.
Sure.
He closed Neverland Ranch again, cut costs. He was living for free as a guest with the Sheikh Abdullah in Bahrain, which is an island. It's a country in West Asia. And this was the prince, the son of the ruler there. He was living there for a long time. And his employees were owed $306,000 in back wages. He had to pay $100K in penalties. There was a lot going on at this time. And he did begin recording again in 2006, though it was notably a quieter time in his life. And in 2007, he was interviewed, and he said that he had no regrets about his lifelong career, despite what he called the difficulties and deliberate attempts to hurt him by other people. So, I don't know. In your perfect world, it's a creepy guy who
was massively talented, who could have avoided all these problems and likely could have avoided some of the other issues had there been someone in his life who was an actual handler who has said, no.
I like...
Stay away from the kids' candy shop.
All I gotta say is, like, I understand, like, it's just upsetting.
He's a grown man.
Yes.
That's the only, like look, I get it. I get traumatizing childhood.
But
a lot of issues.
People have traumatizing childhoods all the time.
I would argue most people don't have amazingly perfect upbringings. So with that being said, that's like the one thing. There's like three things as a celebrity you don't do. You don't spend time with children alone. That includes young men and women. I mean, like 18? No. That's weird. It's creepy. Sorry to some actors who specifically stopped dating women at the age of 25. Sorry. Kind of weird. Kind of creepy. Could be your daughter. Strange. Number two, stay away from the sniffs. Stay away from the stuff. Stay away from it. You'll live a long life. And then number three, stop lighting your money on fire. You don't need a Bugatti made out of elephant, rhino, crocodile, ivory skin.
Oh.
You don't need that. You don't need it.
Elephant, rhino, crocodile.
There's probably something that exists.
Skin.
You don't need that. Now, it's cool, but you don't need it. You could use it for something else. You'd be happier to use it for something else. Those are the three things. And if some of those, and God forbid, if things befall people because of their choices, that is their decision on their life, whatever. But there are too many people, too many celebrities, too many people just generally, celebrities, people generally, who go way too early because of just silliness. Silliness. Not like accidents, not problems. An accident is not something that is avoidable. An accident is an unavoidable series of events. You go through something, oh my gosh, accident. Like I grabbed a plate and it was, it fell out of my hands. Oops, accident, couldn't have caught it. Like, I get it, sad. I understand. I totally understand. I'm not faulting him for anything, but I still think, if anything, a little too close.
I still think best case scenario, it was wrong.
Insidious would be the term.
It's sad. It's
insidious on either end because it's even if it's extortion, you can't. It's really hard for someone to be extorted for something. Really hard for someone to be extorted for something when there's not video footage of you holding a child's hand and talking about sleeping arrangements. Yeah.
Well, it's also like
I don't like what grown man, even a dad, like that's just weird. It's strange.
Well, 2008 spelled doom for Neverland Ranch. His debtors were threatening to foreclose the property, and he had used the property as collateral on all of his loans. So he eventually transferred the title to an LLC and auctioned off a huge collection of memorabilia. He made a lot of money at this auction. And March of 2009, he announced a comeback tour. This was the first tour since 1997, and he implied that he meant to officially retire once this tour was over. And the plan was to visit London, Paris, New York City, and Mumbai. And the London location alone had 50 dates by the end of all the arrangements because they were selling over 1 million tickets in the first 2 hours. And the concerts were set to be from July 13th, 2009 through March 6th of 2010. And as you can imagine, regardless of all that stuff that happened a couple years back, people were so excited to see him on tour. This was going to be his last tour ever. Unfortunately, it was not meant to be. Because 3 weeks before, the completely, every tour date was sold out.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know the individual that called me? I remember specifically. I remember the day he died specifically because they called me at like 9 o'clock at night. I think she had tickets.
Well, no one got to see him perform because June 25th, 2009, remember, he was set to start July 13th. Michael died of cardiac arrest from propofol and I'm so sorry.
Benzodiazepine. Benzes.
It was an overdose.
Benzo overdose. Yeah.
Which,
by the way, on a fun side, unfun side note, I believe a famous psychologist from Canada who talks about male issues also struggled with that type of dependency.
Interesting.
Benzos, yeah.
Well, propofol and benzo overdose, and Michael was in his rented home.
I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Holmby Hills, California, which is part of Los Angeles. And the ER rushed him to the hospital, or the ambulance rushed him to the ER at the hospital at 12:25 p.m. He was pronounced dead at 2:26 p.m. at the Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. And big deal. I remember this day so well. People were very upset. His personal doctor, his name was Conrad Murray, he had created the cocktail of propofol, lorazepam, and midazolam. I'm sorry, these names. Who names these things?
Words are hard. I get it. Midazolam.
He created this cocktail to reportedly help the singer sleep. Michael could not sleep, and one can think of an array of reasons why, but he couldn't go to sleep without this. And his job, Conrad Murray's job, was actually to sit by his bed while Michael slept and watched him. I'm not going to go into the details of this because there's a lot, but Conrad Murray would later be charged and criminally prosecuted for manslaughter after Michael's death was ruled a homicide by the LA coroner. And he was found guilty in late 2011 for this manslaughter. He actually went to prison for 4 years, stripped of his license. So Michael Jackson was technically murdered.
Can we ask a question here? How is it legal for a citizen to hire a personal doctor to drug them to go to sleep? How is that legal? Legitimately, that's a legitimate question. How is that a legal thing that can be done?
In Oregon, I think Colorado too. Maybe Colorado's trying. You can legally have assisted suicide.
That's not the same. I get your point there.
It's a private doctor who is licensed,
still think, how is that still
a licensed doctor who's a private doctor who is willing to come to your home, and
it shouldn't be legal. Dude, because I can't go to the CVS and get stuff that would help me sleep without a consent of the doctor.
You and I could call a nurse right now to come to our house and give us an IV drip.
That's very strange. I don't
literally think we could get an IV trip in our kitchen right now.
I think that's a huge loophole for
there's
illegality.
A lot of talk here.
Because here's the thing. This arguably, again, this is something. I'm not to suggest this guy is innocent. This is arguably something that would not have occurred had it never been introduced.
Well, you could say the same thing, like you wouldn't have gotten a car accident if you didn't get in the car. The argument is that he did not have to die. He was given an overdose by someone who should have known better, someone who should have been watching him.
But
that's why he was convicted.
But the reason I asked this question is because in our country, which is a very complicated country, there's a lot of different laws. It's illegal for someone to utilize something to get intoxicated because it is seen as dangerous. Yet someone can hire a doctor to get them high on benzos to sleep. Well, how is that different? It's the same thing.
When you go in, what if you need to go into a medically induced coma at the hospital?
You go to the hospital.
Well, why does it matter if that same doctor at the hospital is at your house?
Because the hospital has a myriad of professionals there, and it is then up to the hospital to help you in that instance. It's still very strange.
You're going down like a tangent here that could go very deep.
No, I'll keep it. I'll reel it back. I'm just saying that this seems to be like a I don't want to say a shoot the messenger scenario, but it seems kind of similar, just a tad.
People give birth at home. People make this choice all the time, not to go to a hospital for whatever reason. People have personal doctors.
Yeah, but
I'd argue most people with money, a lot of them have doctors come to
I just think that's just very strange. I think that's because here's the thing: is if I have a cold, if I have a cough from a doctor, obviously the likelihood, and granted, the likelihood of the doctor helping you sleep with drugs and you dying is very low. So I understand this, and he obviously was negligent in his activity. With that being said, it seems like just a tad. How is that any different than someone who decides to take some strange cocktail mix that is often rapped about, that has taken a few different rappers' lives and is sold to them on the black market as opposed to from a doctor. Seems very similar. Just a tad.
Unfortunately, yeah, he was taken too early. He was very young.
Interesting.
So Michael's memorial service was held at the Staples Center in Los Angeles on July 7th, 2009. It's considered still today to be one of the most watched events in history on streaming, with an estimated worldwide audience of 2.5 to 3 billion people. And Al Sharpton, who was at this memorial service, told Michael's distraught children, who were sobbing uncontrollably on this television that 3 billion people were watching, he said this: "Wasn't nothing strange about your daddy. It was strange what he had to deal with, but he dealt with it anyway." And
too bad I have mixed feelings about Al Sharpton.
Regardless, he is now entombed at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. And again, he was never criminally convicted of any of those allegations. And still today, the ones that were produced after his death have not been taken to court either.
He had 2.5 to 3 billion people watching him on TV. You can't convict someone.
His memorial service.
You can't convict someone like that. They're inconvictable. They are above the law. That's what, and this is where
that's what a lot of people say.
Well, and this is what I think is, I don't say it's a problem. I just think that's the byproduct of the type of fame that he had. Now, out of all the people we've done, I would say that on a likability scale, person I appreciate the most, I would say Michael's number one. I like Michael Jackson a lot. I am also highly critical because, again, Occam's razor would suggest the shortest point between point A and point B is it's the easiest one to explain. It's the easiest one that makes the most logical sense. Unfortunately, that would mean a lot of nefarious and insidious things. Terrible that he was taken at his age. Terrible that the people involved with him, if that was a thing that occurred, had that happen to them, all terrible. That's all I have to say. It's terribly sad is what it is.
I think the story of Michael Jackson, we have all this music that is almost universally loved. Like, I don't think I've met very many people, or I don't think I've personally met anyone who like listens to a Michael Jackson song and hates it, right? It's like most people love Michael Jackson's music. These days, it's much more controversial about the man himself. But the story of his life is one of great tragedy, regardless of the 3 billion people who tuned in to watch the memorial service. The fact that 3 billion people were interested enough to take part in the memorialization of his life.
But not a single one of them were actually his friend.
Yeah.
Which he said himself.
Which is
he's incredibly lonely.
Terribly
so
sad.
This is where I go back to my criticisms of this hero worship nonsense, because what it does is it creates this dichotomy within society in which the person who is so famous can't trust anyone around them, can't have anyone around them at all, has no stability, has no structure of assistance, nobody that they can actually legitimately lean on, but they have so many people that quote unquote love them. It's psychotic, and in my opinion, it's a curse. We've had this discussion before. I think being a celebrity is an absolute curse. I think obscurity is a blessing, in my opinion. And it's just sad. And here's the thing: it's like I've got mixed feelings. Love his music, love the entertainment nature of his things. I think he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, one of the greatest entertainers that has ever lived and may ever have lived. I think he's up there. With that being said, it's very hard to play the game that people play, in which they'll criticize like impactful world people, but they won't criticize people they like. And that's kind of where I kind of align. Is like, you should not have had some of the people that you had at your house. You just shouldn't have done it.
I think there's just a lot of hoops you have to jump through, even in the best case scenario, to make
logical hoops.
Yeah.
You've got to just ignore a lot of
So
logic.
it's a tough one to do because, you don't want to believe things.
Why not?
Well, no. I'm just saying when you enjoy someone, it's like you said, it's a celebrity. Michael Jackson passed away not that long ago. Mm-hmm. he was very much a huge part of our lives when we were children. So it's just tough pill to swallow because there's serious accusations here.
You have to remember,
two of them were wiped off the map clean, and two of them are kind of in limbo right now.
So the alternative, and here's the alternative, more disturbing position, which I probably would tend to hold. This individual was so famously talented, so famous because of it, so gifted, so universally loved, that if those things did occur, the justice system completely and totally failed those individuals. And that's something that
any
I think
way you
people,
look at it, any way you look at it, it's a tragedy.
And I think that's something that people tend to forget, because you can't demonize one side and completely ignore the tragedy on the other. Because in the inverse, Michael had a lot of stuff he obviously had not dealt with. And that's obviously I'm kind of throwing stones at a glass house. I'm not perfect.
Whether it's Michael or these boys,
imagine being one of the kids.
Yeah.
If it actually happened.
Oh.
Imagine being one of the kids
and having to stand up against that.
No, existing in a world that doesn't care.
Well, right.
That's where I'm coming from.
Let's not forget about them,
So, granted, people extort people all the time. There are always gray areas. Sometimes people do things that are insidious. Again, though, and this is something that cannot be argued because it happened. Why did you have children at your house? Any explanation you give, the older I get, it's creepier and creepier.
I mean, the bottom line is that's what we do know happened for sure. And
why?
You can't just explain that away, in my opinion.
Why? No.
So
but anyway,
that is the story of Michael Jackson's life.
Yep.
It's not an easy one to talk about. So I hope that after this you have some gummy bears and you watch or listen to something that may make you laugh.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this one was going to make you laugh. Maybe if you go back to some of our other episodes, there might be some funnies in there.
This one was a little dark. Who are we going to do next?
We need to lighten it up a little bit. That one was a dark one.
Let's do L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, that would be a fun one.
Let's do L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard coming up right after this.
But yeah, that's I don't remember what episode number this is, like 12 or something like that. It's one of the numbers. I need to get
something like that.
So much is going on. This is actually gonna be our first filmed episode.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a YouTube channel up. Most likely Hbo Podcast. We got to get that all created in this video. This will actually probably be released. This video will probably be released in a few weeks. But yeah, if you like what you hear, go ahead and follow us on Instagram. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify. We're also on most major listening platforms. We're still working on that. But yeah, we are going to be talking about L. Ron Hubbard next, which is going to be a fun one because I can actually make fun of him, which is great. But yeah, also, is there anything else I'm missing? No.
A good send-off.
We are actually going to have a release schedule now. What was it, Tuesdays? Is that when this? We'll put it down. We'll include this in information. Yes. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye, guys.